What's up, guys? This is the Gospel According to Mark with a C. He is I and I am he. Just taking some time to tell you exactly what's on my mind. I'm going to give you my little casual review of The Mandalorian, chapter 14. This is season 2, episode 6, entitled The Tragedy. All right, guys, right up front, let's address the fact that The Mandalorian exists pretty much on its own, all right? We're going to just address this as it is in front of us, okay? We're not going to try to put it next to the greater lore, or we're not going to try to put it in the context of the EU or Legends or anything like that. Obviously, this is something different, okay? So on this channel, that's the way we take it, okay? It's not going to fit into anything that is part of the expanded universe. It's its own thing, all right? So that's the way I acknowledge it. That's the way I talk about it. And here we go. All right, so as our episode starts, you see, what's his name? Din Djarin, or the Mandalorian, and he's gently calling out Grogu's name as Grogu plays with one of his balls, and it seems like they're enjoying themselves, and they have definitely developed a rather intimate relationship between the two of them. They are very close at this point. All right, so the Mandalorian is explaining to Grover that once they find the Jedi who's going to take him off of his hands, he's going to have to go with him, okay? I don't know why Ahsoka did not go with them to ensure safe passage or whatever. I guess she's too busy getting set up for her own spin-off series. All right, so they're on their way to the planet Nylon, and there they go. So once they finally get there, what's his name? The Mandalorian takes Groot up to the top of the mountain. He puts him on some type of stone altar, and he lets off some type of gas or whatever, some type of fumes that could be smelled all over the galaxy. And this is serving as some type of beacon, right? So it must stink pretty bad because it's supposed to reach like out to all of the Jedi anywhere who can hear it. Okay, so the interesting thing about that is I'm thinking, because, you know, I actually have an imagination, I'm thinking that what if that beacon that he sent out is the actual awakening? You know, now if you had to, and some people suspected it is, if it has to tie into the sequel trilogy, wouldn't that be an interesting jump off point? Because that's what I always suspected anyway, and they didn't do it with the sequel trilogy, that there was some type of like monumental event that awakened the latent force of people all over the galaxy. So you would have seen like a baby or a child, Rey or Finn, you know, or something like that, being somehow triggered, you know, by this beacon, you know, and that would have been it, you know, if they had an imagination, which they don't. So, you know, here's the beacon, it goes up, it's supposed to be powerful. The Mandalorian is trying to reach in, you know, to grab the child, and he just can't do it, you know, because after a while he notices that they have company, and it turns out to be Slave One, and that's Boba Fett and his assistant, you know, who is, the chick that the Mandalorian peeled the cap in and left for dead last season. So Boba Fett has managed to be able to revive her and, save her life. And she's got some type of technology and all types of machines, like in her midsection, I guess, where he repaired her. And I bet she could do a mean belly dance. I bet they've had some high times up in Slave One, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I'd like to see that episode. But so there they are. It's like you got Boba Fett, and he's looking for his armor, you know, he's looking for his underwear. I mean, all that stuff that Cobb Vanth was wearing of his, you know, and he can't find it. So he's been following the Mandalorian all the way here, and he wants his armor. So they have a little back and forth and everything. And the Mando says, you know, you can't have it, whatever. And after, I guess, too long, because they don't have much long to go back and forth before they have more company. And it turns out these are the Imperial troopers who are looking for, what's his name, Groot. So they come down there, and now Boba Fett is seriously kicking some tail. You know, he's got his little stick and everything, and, you know, he's like whacking them, and he's knocking them over and everything. And meanwhile, what's her name? Fennec, right? Fennec Shan. It's like she is picking them off. You know, she's a sharpshooter and everything. So they're seriously doing some damage. Meanwhile, Mando's doing what Mando always does, which is find his way out of the action, right? So he's up on top of the mountain. He's trying to get Baby Yoda. He keeps on reaching in and getting repelled, reaching in and getting repelled, reaching in and getting repelled. And finally, what I thought was a comedic moment, he says, okay, I'm going to protect you. I mean, obviously, he's in some type of force field. Nothing can get to him right now anyway. So he goes down and he joins Boba Fett and Fennec in the fighting. Boba Fett has managed to get his armor, and he comes out, and it's a pretty cool moment. It's like Boba Fett is back, you know, and he starts using all of his hidden weapons and his armor, and he's just like kicking major ass, and it's crazy, you know what I mean? And the stormtroopers, they're doing what they do, which is get run over and get beat up and all that stuff. But here comes the Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon comes through. He destroys the Razor Crest, like blows it to bits. You know what I mean? And like there is no repairing it this time. There's no taking it to Richard Simmons. There's nothing that he can do at this excuse me, at this point. All right, so the Razor Crest is just laid out. All right, but Boba Fett goes on and you know, he's doing what, like I said before, he's like beating up the stormtroopers. But Moff Gideon sends down the Dark Troopers, which was pretty cool. You know, the Dark Troopers, obviously, you see them, you know that, you know, they're going to get the job done. And they do. Because by this time, Baby Yoda, the force field has dropped. You know, so he's laying on top of the, you know, the stone altar or whatever. The Dark Troopers, they come down, they grab him, and they take off. You know what I mean? So now they got Baby Yoda, they got Grogu, right? So what happens at that point? The Mandalorian is seeing that his ship is gone. You know, it's like, what am I going to do here? You know, they took the kid, he's gone. And, you know, I should make a point here, too, about Mandalorian, because I see a lot of people are talking about how he's being overshadowed in his own show. And I've talked about that, too. But, you know, watching it, I had the revelation, if you really look at the Mandalorian the right way, it's almost like, what if Star Wars was told from the point of view of Han Solo? Okay, it's almost that way. You know, because here you have a character who's not directly involved in all of this. He found himself swept up in it. All right, he was leading his selfish life and all that stuff wherever he came from, and he was made to care. You know, so now he's involved in all of this. He's not part of the mythos. He's not part of the Jedi. He's not part of the Sith or anything like that. You know what I mean? He doesn't necessarily want to be involved, but he's there, you know. So I hear, you know, Mando, he's calling Grogu kid and all this stuff, and he doesn't really understand it. And I'm like, you know what? This is almost as if, you know, what if it was told from the point of view of Han Solo, only not as cool, you know? So I look at it that way, you know, he's allowed to be overshadowed because he's not actually a part of all of this, right? So that's one way of looking at it. Nobody knows where he came from. Nobody cares. Obviously, they're not really going to give him a real backstory other than the fact that we know he's a foundling. So Boba and Fennec explain to the Mandalorian that they are in his service. Still not sure about why. Maybe because he gave them back the armor, maybe? I don't know. So they're in his service. So they say they're going to do what they can to protect the child. So they're going to help him, in other words. So Mando, Boba, and Fennec get up in a Slave One, and they take off. And then you see the scene where Mando is talking to Cara Dune, who is the marshal and all that stuff. And, you know, she's looking all official, you know, badass as usual. And he explains to her what they're going to do. And, you know, she's all like, whatever, whatever, until she realizes that they took the child. And then you see her looking kind of like, what? You know, so then they go to the closing scene, which is Moff Gideon. And for some reason, he's wearing this apron, right, that looks like a Darth Vader costume. It looks like something my son wore for Halloween a couple of years ago. It's weird. It's like I don't know what the function is of that, but there he is. All right, so he's wearing this, looking like a poser. So he goes in to check on Grogu, who's roughing up some stormtroopers. And this is by design because he wants Grogu to be exhausted so he can come in and whip out his long black rod. And Goku, of course, looks like he's very impressed by this, but he's too tired now because, you know, he's been beating up the stormtroopers. So there's nothing he can do. So, you know, here you have Gideon waving his long black wand in Goku's face, and he can't do anything. And he's just like, well, you know, we got you now. So call up the doctor, tell him we got the donor, and we're going to go forward with the plan. All right. And that's pretty much the end of the episode, guys. So, like I said before, that's my very, very quick wrap up of this week's Mandalorian. And I will give this probably, I'm going to give this favorable reviews. You know what I mean? It didn't strike me as good as last week's, but it was up there. It was definitely one of the best. I really did enjoy it. It was directed by Robert Rodriguez, who is one of my favorite directors. He's the guy who's responsible for getting Salma Hayek up on a table and dancing with a snake and having Quentin Tarantino suck on her toes. And that's always been a cinematic highlight of mine. So I've always liked him. So it was enjoyable. And he knows how to craft an action sequence, which this episode was. It was very, very heavy on the action. You know, and what I also appreciate about Robert Rodriguez is he knows how to put females in action scenes where they're sexy and powerful and capable. Like the scene of Fennec jumping off of a cliff in slow motion backwards, shooting at the stormtroopers was epic. I really did appreciate that. It was so graceful and so powerful and so badass. So the episode overall, like I said, was really good, and I feel like this season is definitely it's a triumph. So far. Hopefully it continues on. Like I really, I want to know how this is all going to end. Wouldn't it be crazy if it ended with Sebastian Stan coming in as Luke Skywalker in the last episode to save Baby Yoda, and he says to him, "I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you." Wouldn't that be crazy? So anyway, I guess we'll find out, guys, because next week, chapter 15, I think it is. All right, and we're gonna find out. We're gonna see what happens after this, and I'm there for it, guys. Like I said, as long as you can keep this in its own box, because out of its box, you're gonna have trouble, because like many people have pointed out, there's timeline issues. It doesn't always line up with lore and legend, and it's just a lot of things don't click. But just as its own thing, it's enjoyable. I am enjoying it. So guys, get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about this. Tell me what you thought of this week's episode. You can like, you can share, you can subscribe as always. You can catch me on Twitter. The link to the script, it will be in the description box below. And that's it for now, guys. I will catch you in the next one. This is The Gospel According to Mark with a C. Rock on.